Howdy, howdy. How you
Man,
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm
Well,
patriotic today.
you are, man. Red, white, and blue. Looking sharp.
What's
You like
happening
to
down
oh,
in
just
Alabama?
just busy. Just
Yeah,
of course that's the story of my life. But we'd like
right.
to welcome everybody out tonight for this edition of the Stream Team Beekeeping Chat. And glad to have everybody on here tonight. And hopefully it'll be a good time. We're going to talk about summer beekeeping tips and tricks. I guess it's coming up on late summer beekeeping tips and tricks. We're getting on up into the really a
Yeah.
critical time. I guess we say that every week. It's a critical time. It's a critical time. But now we're getting into that period of time when we're starting to build winter bees in most places, and really starting to look forward to the winter time and then on into next year. So, but as far as everybody in the chat, we appreciate you being here. A lot of names I recognize, and a few I don't. And so we love to have you here each and every Wednesday night. If you're able to join us, we're really glad you're here with us tonight. And lots of things to talk about. It amazes me, Brian, how we've been doing this now for, well, 3.5 years plus, and we still find things to talk about.
I know.
Earlier, it was kind of funny because earlier you weren't sure if you're going to make it on tonight, at least not to start the chat. And I was like, well, I don't know if Greg's going to be on tonight. I'm not sure. He has a hard time finding these things to say. And, but then we all know that's not true. Greg definitely has the gift of the gab, and
Yeah.
he's good at short story longs for sure. And so he will be on here in a minute. He's having some technical difficulties trying to get hooked up tonight, but hopefully he can get that straightened out. I'll be here and be on here in just a
Uh,
few minutes. He's got, I guess, got some issues with his mic or something. He's trying to get hooked up right now. But
well, he got.
um,
Remember last week he got fried
yeah, from
when
the lightning and stuff, right?
lightning hit and fried out a bunch of his stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So he's probably still trying to get that
yeah,
recovered.
yeah.
But if you notice, you look in here, I'm back in my original studio where I was for the first 3 years plus of the stream team. My daughter, they moved back home here, back to this town, and they recently closed on a house and they moved out. And the guest bedroom is where my studio is, and so they're living in their house now, and so I got my studio back. And the honey room wasn't too bad of a backdrop, but we're back up here, and it's a little better spot for it. But anyway, without further ado, Brian, tell us what's going on up in Northeast Ohio, up there in your area.
Oh man, I tell you what. So I took a picture and posted it. Was that Saturday? Okay. And I had the cameras all set up, and I thought, you know what? I was feeling good. I was feeling it. I'm like, I'm going to go through all the colonies. Well, that selfie that I took was probably the only moment of peace
Oh,
that
great.
entire day. Uh,
They got after you, huh?
let me, I'll just pull up a quick little, let me see, where did I delete the video already? Oh, no, I didn't. So here we go. All right. Look at them on the bucket.
Yeah. Oh wow, they're desperate to get some food, huh?
Oh, I
They're
mean,
going after it.
so I got into the first colony, okay, and they were getting at me a little bit. Now, it was an end colony, and I thought, well, maybe, something. Maybe they were getting a little bit more drift than they're used to. And on that end, it's one of my colonies that overwintered. So they're a larger colony. They're going to be a little bit grumpy anyways, because we are in a pretty good dearth. Like other parts of Ohio, people say they still have like nectar coming in, things like that. And I'm like, well, not here.
Hmm.
Uh, I went, looked at on that colony, I have two supers on, and I'll do a deep and a medium, but that extra one, I was just letting them fill in some of that super. That way I can equalize them throughout the yard. For those that are a little slower, I thought I'll just equalize, So I get the supers off. The minute I got right down into the brood, because I wanted to go down, do a mite wash, check my pattern and everything like that. I was going to do an entire assessment of the whole yard. I had to like I you'll see when I post the video. Uh I mean there was probably by the time I was done, I did 2 colonies. Um I probably had 30 stingers in my GoPro. I mean, they were lighting my GoPro up, they were lighting me up. I had stingers all in my jeans. I mean, they were lighting things up. I finally I just
Just
walked away. I just thought, you know, there I didn't want to proceed because they were very angry.
weren't
Um,
happy.
I know, and I wanted to get things done, but it's like sometimes you just have to. You got to know when to stop. You know,
Yeah.
I did like my colonies. They're working on. They've almost emptied their second gallon of
Well,
syrup that I've put on them.
let's bring the
So
third member of the stream team in here real quick. See how old Greg's
there
doing.
you go.
Oh, there he is.
See,
We'll have to be
It's one of
quiet
those.
now. That,
It's so
go ahead.
I got to be quiet tonight because I don't have any technology. My regular microphone system, the backup microphone system, the earbuds, everything. Not going
Yeah.
to happen. So
Well, we
see,
if
can
the
hear.
audio quality is real
We
bad,
can.
let me know
We
and I'll
can.
just tune in from the comments.
We can hear you just fine, Greg. Just
yeah.
come on. You're part of this team. You sound great. Go ahead, Brian. Continue. So the bees were.
But
They were
yeah,
nasty.
they were just super feisty. Um, I basically so what I looked at then, it's like I walked away from them and I got the who is it Kenny Rogers song in my head. I know when to fold. You know that moment right there. I'm like, you know what? After 2 colonies, I had so many bees hitting me that like I was going like this to brush them off the front of my veil. I needed like a windshield wiper. There were that many bees at me. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to give them a week or so, let them chill out. I'll just hammer them with the syrup. That way they can kind of chill out some because they'll have syrup coming in. They'll have some carbs coming in. Um, that's it right now. I
Yeah.
did though, like Saturday, I was planning on going over and playing in my head was I'm going to spend, um, 6-7 hours in the yard. So what I did though then, and you sent me over what was it, Brian? Hashtag 27. I cleared all that land out there with bees still. Like you see where my colonies are over there.
Yeah.
The bees were still hitting me over there in the trees. I probably
Yeah.
had 30, 40, sometimes 50 bee. When I got closer, 50 of them still pinging me. So I used the
Goodness.
cleanup, but yeah, they were angry, man. I'm gonna go back over tomorrow though, and just to kind of top things off. Next week I'm gonna be out of commission, so I want to make sure that they're all topped off before I leave. But yeah, I mean we are in a heavy dearth. And now before I came up here, I went down to my weather station and I
Mhm.
looked for the month of August so far. So now we're only August 6th. We have had our precipitation, okay, 0. Now
Man,
they
what a change! What a change, huh?
I know, and now they said like the next projected like week forecast, no precipitation. So we're going to go
Goodness.
at least like 2 weeks with no rain in this area here. So, but that's it. I mean, it's just they're hungry, and I'm gonna feed them. So I got one colony that and it's actually the one that bucket was on where I showed that video. They are my smallest colony, and with all those bees up on that bucket, uh, it was entrance reducer time.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just taking those precautions. I mean, August gets tricky. There's times when I haven't had to do this. We've still had a little bit of a trickle, like some parts of Ohio still have. But like right now, we're just man. I mean, this dearth hit hard.
Sure.
So No
Greg,
fun like that.
how about you, Greg?
It's a little different here. The bees have actually been extremely chilled out, but we've got a very minor flow that's been just trickling in since last Saturday we had the learning yard, and the bees were extremely chilled out. Mite counts are probably at all-time lows. I don't know that we've ever seen them this low this late in the year. In the learning yard, there are it's packages that we've got staged out from the first 3 runs, and they're puppy dogs. Very relaxed, very chilled out, but they've had just enough incoming flow. None of them, they have bucket feeders on, but they're not in the feeding position. They're just there just in case. We're just trying to see what they're going to do. Looks like we've got at least one of them is going to produce an entire honey super in its first year for the learning yard folks. So that's good. The 2 of them will probably produce. So, we'll be looking at probably a 5-gallon bucket between the 3 colonies there. With as bad as the flow was this year, that's kind of a huge blessing. But when the bees get hungry and robbing ensues, Brian's probably looking at a scenario where his bees have been being robbed nonstop for maybe a week. And when that happens, whoever the lucky beekeeper is to go crack a lid, they're going to be the one that's going to take the brunt of that. Sometimes there's some signs and some things that you can see ahead of time. Like if you pull a bucket feeder off and they're pouring straight up and out, they're definitely on the defense. One thing I'll say about the bucket feeders, though, is it tends to really help with the robbing, because if there is a little bit of, especially like rainwater that sits in the little crevice where the lid is, a lot of times you'll see bees will try to get in and around that to get any kind of liquid. Yeah, that right there, I've actually found it tends to help robbing, where you'll have activity. You might have activity on the outside of a bucket, but on the entrance and inside the colony, it's completely different. And so sometimes that actually helps keep things away from the entrances. But right now everything is just slowly moving forward. We've got most of the supers off, I think, for now, at least out of most of the yards. I made a big mistake this year, guys. Cost me about $15,000 in one yard, and we went through, and when we pulled nukes, we put supers on because everything was just jamming, and put those supers on, and I said, I'll come back in 4 or 5 days, and I'll put excluders on, let them get up there and start working those frames first. One thing led to another, and we didn't make it back to that yard to put excluders on. So out of a beautiful, just jam-packed, beautiful yard of 48 colonies, that yard produced 1 box of honey. What they did produce, however, is they all produced at least a nuke, and then all the boxes that we added on, whether it was a deep or a medium, are now all also jammed full. So the silver lining with that is I might have lost 15 grand in honey that I could have pulled off of there, but every colony there is going to produce at least a 10 frame split. So that'll be pretty helpful. So that'll be next year's return on that asset. So it's just been a lot of stuff like that. It's you get this late in the season, and it's just all the slack gets pulled, and you start to see where your points of vulnerability were, and the things didn't quite work out the way that you wanted. But it's just one of those things. The 1 yard that was was looking good for honey, probably the best looking yard for honey this year. They made brood. So it's still a blessing. I'm not complaining. So just little things like that you're just kind of working through. Had a lot of fun speaking at the Guernsey Noble Bee Club earlier this week, and it was great because we got to work with them to get them they bought a Maxent extractor for their folks as a loaner extractor. So that was a lot of fun. That was a little different because we actually got to take the bee club folks. We actually have a bee yard there where they meet, and we got to take those folks down to the bees and actually show them hands-on how to apply formic, how to apply Apogard, how to apply oxalic acid, and talk about all the nuances between that all. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoy the teaching part of when it comes to beekeeping. But man, what else is going on here? Probably a whole bunch. We have some folks coming and visiting. One of our regular stream teamers, Phil Nowles from Cedar Ridge Bees, is driving all the way from Kansas. So he'll be here tomorrow, pick up some equipment, and stop in for a quick visit. So that'll be pretty cool. So other than that, guys, it's just it's make or break time, and we got to put all those final plans in motion and get things moving into the direction that we want to see for next spring. It starts now.
Sounds great. Sounds familiar. So,
Hey, Greg, I was going to add, though, those girls that are up at the buckets, my entrances look fine.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with them pegging that. And they did, when I popped the buckets to fill them back up, they came roaring out of there like, yeah, every single colony. It was like I called them a bad name.
Yeah, they're definitely on the defensive there, and you don't know what else is going on too. It's not just honeybees robbing; it's everything else.
Yeah.
And last year we saw bald-faced hornets in colonies last year. So between that and the raccoons are out at full force right now too. So who knows what it is?
It's not raccoons because they're at my feeders that I have about 200 feet back in the woods.
That's great.
But oh well.
Sounds like exciting times up there in Ohio for both of you guys in different ways.
Come
down here,
because I want to, in front of everybody, and then I'll let Bruce carry on. But in front of everybody, I'm inviting Bruce to come on up and help me out, because we've all seen in his videos, he's like a master at working feisty colonies. And my colonies here, it's almost like it'd be like it's kind of like nostalgia, he could step back in time. It almost be like he's working his colonies.
Yeah, I hear you. I have a few like that still, but fortunately that number is going down. At least it has been much better this year. So, but anyone who watched, I dropped a video last night. I haven't filmed a lot. I've got a fair amount of video footage film ready to go, or not ready to go. It needs to be edited, and I'm kind of getting behind time, so some of them I may not even utilize. But I did feel like it was important for me to post the video I posted yesterday, and I've gotten a lot of comments on it, which is great. I love the interaction. But I had a situation in my honey room, in my honey storage room, where my mom noticed some bees just flying around it, and there was some fluid dripping out around the bottom of the storage room. So of course that happened to be honey. So when she peeked in there, she saw that there was honey all around the bottom of the buckets. And so we knew there was a bucket that had collapsed or cracked or something. We knew something was going on. So we pulled all the buckets out and we found the problem. If you want to see what happened, you can watch the video. Several people on here, I think, have already watched this, had quite a bit of viewership so far. But we the moral of the story is this, and I've had a lot of great suggestions in my comments. I know that some people use plywood between the buckets, to help distribute the weight better. And with 140, 150 buckets, that would be a lot of plywood to put between the buckets. But I've stacked them the way I stack them for years. I stack them 5 high, which some people think is crazy. And I've done it that way for the last few years, and no trouble. The key is that you have to have good quality buckets and strong lids. The lids in this video, as you can see, the lid was the issue. As we were harvesting the honey, we got towards the end, and I thought I had ordered plenty of lids, if not too many, more than what we needed, and ended up we ran out of lids. And I had some buckets I was going to process out of my operation. Unfortunately, I brought them, some old 70 mil buckets, and but I had them there just in case, and just in case came to fruition. But my partner that I harvest hunting with, Rusty, happened to have some lids there, some spares, and they were the lids that have the strap around them, the little pull strip, but they weren't designed to be stacked 5 high. I'll put it that way, to be on the bottom of a 5 bucket stack. And so basically the 4 buckets on top, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, the 4 buckets on top just compressed down, and that lid peeled off, and we had kind of a mess in there. So I've never had that issue before, knock on wood. Hopefully I won't have it again. But the key, if that bucket had been on the top of the stack, it wouldn't have been an issue, but it happened to be on the bottom. I was trying to watch for them when we were unstacking them out of the truck, but we just missed one, and that happened to be the one that we had the problem with. And so, of course, it happened to be one on the bottom instead of, near the top. But it's kind of a good video. Watch it to the end. You'll kind of see the results of whether or not the bees cleaned it up. I think maybe the video was a little bit too long. I had a little bit of footage of the family in there, kind of in the middle a little bit, and I think some people clicked off before they saw the final results of the video and how everything worked out. But it all worked out okay. The buckets are stacked back in there, and as far as I know, everything's okay. So, but if you haven't seen that video, it's interesting. I had so many great suggestions in the comments, and more people I'm sure will comment on that. And I appreciate all the interaction we had. It's just got a lot of interaction. It's been kind of fun to see what everybody's suggestions were, and a lot of people commiserating with me, thinking, "Oh man," but it wasn't that bad. We just, it's one of those things that you do and you live and you learn. And I knew better. We just missed one, and so that's what happened there. But that's the most recent video I dropped. We actually, I did not film this part of my summer. Probably about a month ago now, I actually went ahead and got some more queens from Zach in Hawaii and went ahead and made a few more summer splits. And I honestly haven't had a chance to get in and see how they're doing. I did peek in on a few of them, and they're doing fine. They seem to be doing okay. Just a very few I peeked in. I got 28 queens. And I peeked in on 4 or 5 of them. One of them, the split, I think, was too weak. I saw some eggs. I didn't see a queen, so I'm not sure she might be in there, but it's probably just kind of destined to fail this time of the year. It's just going to be tough, and that happens sometimes in the summer. They don't do that well, but I haven't gone to the area where I did most of the splits yet. I haven't been to check on those hives yet, but they're just doing what they're doing, and if they don't make it, I can always combine them back. But a lot of those were to replace weak queens. A lot of them were to replace mean queens. I had some very strong colonies that it was tough for me to do it, but I ended up dispatching a few queens there just because their attitude wasn't good, and so I went ahead and did that. Greg, it's still hard for me to do that, man, but I did it. And now I do have some more queens coming this weekend. I want to do a little bit more. I'm not sure how much we want to talk about that, but maybe we will a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to do a little video on these. Summer splits are hard for me, but last year they really got me kind of ahead of the game for this spring. I did some summer splits. Last year, I'm kind of trying to duplicate what I did last year. 2 years ago, I did some late summer splits, like around this time of the year, if not a little bit later, and they did not do well. Last year, I did some in July. This year, I'm going to do some both in July and August and see what we can do. But I've learned a thing or two. I've learned a lot of things the last couple of years about how to do them. And maybe we can talk about that a little bit tonight if we get to that. But so that's what we're doing here. I've had 3 of my 4 kids moved in July. And we've had a lot of movement, a lot of activity in our family. And I haven't had a chance to spend a lot of time with the bees, really, as much as I probably normally would have. And I haven't had as much time as I would to edit videos or to shoot video footage. And frankly, I've been tired. So it's kind of where I'm at with the YouTube channel. If you were wondering why I hadn't produced as many videos lately, I was on a pretty good clip there for a while, but I've backed off a little bit the last couple of weeks.
Bruce and Brian, did you guys talk? Did you mention the big news?
It depends on what the big news is.
I mean, what are the chances that such an important special day would occur on a stream team beekeeping chat? It's just like, I don't know, Brian, can you cue like balloons or anything special? So everybody in the comments now, and then also when this video hits Bruce's YouTube channel,
right?
Bruce just turned 45 today.
Exactly.
It's Bruce's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bruce. Happy birthday to you.
That's right. I
45.
survived another trip around the
45, yeah.
globe. Yep.
Can you believe that?
I
Happy
didn't turn
birthday,
40.
Bruce.
I didn't turn 45, Greg. I turned 29 times 2.
29. Okay. Yeah.
Times 2.
Yeah. Well, they say
29
age
times,
is just a number until you can't get
29,
out of bed in the morning.
29 plus 29 equals, what's that equal?
That's 58, I think.
That's what I turned today. So anyway,
58.
28
Bruce,
times 2.
I
Yep.
hope I'm doing as good as you are at 58.
Oh, I'm sure you will be. I put
28
on a pretty good
times 2?
appearance, but it's a little tough sometimes, but it's okay. It works out good. And the heat really, that's probably the biggest thing is just the heat. I have to be more careful in the heat than I used to.
Did time out here a second though. Did you say 28 times 2?
29 times 2.
Oh, okay. I was about to say your old age is getting you because your math is starting to fail.
Yeah, I was at work today and they were kind of joking with me. And they said, how old are you? I said, I'm 29. And then it hit me. It's like that 58 is 29 times 2. So I said times 2. And it took a minute, but we figured it out. So anyway, but yeah, so that's good. Yeah. So like Chris says, he started counting backwards at 40 and now he's 24. That's another way you can do it.
This is how much Bruce loves the Stream Team community. On his birthday, where he could just diving into cake and ice cream and homemade dinner and just, everyone just catering to Bruce's big special day. Instead, he's right here hanging out talking about bees. That's the kind of guy Bruce is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it's just it's not that big a deal. I'd much rather talk about other people's birthdays and other things but it's good. I appreciate all the should I say condolences or congratulations, whatever you want to call it.
Wow.
The big one's coming up in a couple of years, though. That'll be tough. But I imagine the day I turn 60, I'll probably feel about like the last day I was 59. That's kind of how life has worked out for me. There's not a huge difference, although you think there will be. But anyway, it's a gradual thing. But I think I'm really blessed. I work in a hospital and we see a lot of people, my age and younger that are in a lot worse shape than I am. People that really have severe medical problems or have bad injuries and things like that we work with in the hospital. And so, any day I can get up and go to work, actually go to work the bees, go to work where I work. Any day that I can get up and go to church or go help someone else or just hang out here at the house, if I can just get up and live and do do any type of physical work is a blessing. And so I just, even though there's a few aches and pains here or there, I get tired a little quicker than I used to. I'm extremely blessed to be able to do what I can. Because like I said, there are a lot of people my age that are in a lot better shape than I am. There are a lot of people my age that are in a lot worse shape than I am too, physically. But it's not all about the physical either. I mean, there's a lot of things I've learned over the years as well. And I still got a lot to learn. Hopefully I got a lot of years left to learn all the things I need to overcome some of the dumb things I do. So anyway, but we're working at it every year. It seems like the last 3 or 4 years in the beekeeping world, I've learned a ton, and it seems like things are getting a little better and more efficient. And a lot of that's because of you guys. And actually, honestly, the people here in the comments, since we've done the stream team, I've learned, first of all, the community, the network has become so good that there's been so many great advice, ideas I've learned, even with my video that dropped last night about the buckets. Some of the suggestions, I'd heard some of them before and some of them I hadn't. And so if you want to look at if you want to stack buckets high, I say the number one thing is to get high quality buckets and lids, but then also look at the comments in that, in this video, because there's a lot of people that gave some good ideas as far as, using plywood. Somebody even mentioned using 12-inch tile between the buckets because it's good and sturdy and it helps distribute the weight. And so a lot of things, but anyway, enough about me and my birthday.
Me and Brian got you something for your birthday.
Uh-oh.
They're fresh. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir. There we go.
All right. It's on behalf of me and Brian here. We're going to send you something.
Yep. Man, I appreciate it.
Not going to tell you what they are. It's a secret.
It's not.
There's drones in there.
Yeah, that would be the ultimate joke with drones in there.
That would actually be pretty funny.
It'd
be a waste of overnight shipping though, but wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah, you could send somebody two packages a day apart, and so the first day you send them a bunch of drones, and they're like, "What on earth? This guy doesn't know anything." And the next day you send them the actual
Oh my gosh!
But that is what I've actually been setting up for that a little bit. Greg, I got some buckets from you. You sent me some buckets, and last week I went out and tried to identify 20 hives that I do want to utilize those queens in, whether it be to replace the queen in there or to split them. And we'll see. Some of my bees, actually, I think the queens are getting a little bit old. And so this is the time of year when it really manifests itself. Older queens, any stress on the hive with the heat. Some that I thought that have been strong all year that produced a lot of honey are starting to crash a little bit on me. And so some of those are some of the ones I identified, but I've got some that are super strong. You can definitely tell the younger queen colonies by looking, as you pull the lid off, you can tell immediately which ones are new queens from this year. And it's interesting, in my Applin Farms bee yard, last year, the splits I made with the Hawaiian queens are on one end of the bee yard, and the other end of the bee yard was just my normal stock. Well, those queens went through all last year, did really well, and then again this year they did really well. And then this year I replaced a bunch of the ones on the other end of the bee yard, and so now the strength is kind of flip flopped. Like now, the strength is on the end where I made splits and replaced the queens this year, and the older queens are starting to, not really completely failing, but you can just tell a difference in them. They're just aging a little bit. And so it's just interesting to see how that works. And especially, we really haven't had a bad dearth here. It did dry out for a few weeks, but it's been raining quite a bit the last the last few days. So I haven't really seen the bees just super robby or super, they haven't been super feisty or aggressive so far this year. They've a time or two, maybe when I got in, they were a little bit that way, but for the most part, they just seem pretty happy. And so I think there's a little something kind of trickling in. There has been most of the summer, which is unusual for us. And now the cotton is starting to bloom around, and there's some things maybe starting to bloom in the woods. And I've seen some goldenrod. I haven't seen it turning gold yet, but you can tell it's going to here pretty soon. But usually down here, it's a little earlier. It's usually about, mid to late August, we start seeing a little bit of goldenrod, especially when you get late August into September. And so, we're starting to kind of feel that little bit of, I wouldn't say a chill in the air. That's not how I would describe it. But there's a little bit of a difference in the air right now. You can just tell, even though it's hot and humid, there's just something that feels a little different. Maybe it's football season coming. Maybe because I hear about teams practice football. That's probably what it is. But anyway, there's you can tell that change in the season is taking place. Maybe it's because we're after the solstice, the days are getting a little bit shorter, but there's definitely something different about the bees right now, something different about everything out there. It's just kind of weird how it's so subtle, but it's there. You can tell the different seasons kind of change and merge through. You can just see it. You can feel it. I'm not sure. It's not something that happens usually overnight. Sometimes it does, but usually it's such a gradual thing, especially this time of the year. But anyway, we'll see how those queens do. I'm excited to try them, and hopefully I can keep them alive this time, Greg. I haven't been very good at it. In the past, when I've gotten queens from you, it's been so late in the year. But I think I've got a game plan together this time that's going to work a little better. I've learned a lot the last probably 2 to 3 years, just by making a lot of mistakes. This time of the year, it's risky. You got to, you don't have a lot of room for wiggle room this time of the year, and so you got to do it right. But feeding them, I went down to Tyler's and I got some syrup from him. He just has big drums of corn syrup out there, like he orders a tanker at a time. And so I got 150 gallons straight. I didn't thin it down at all. Like you mentioned, you suggested that to me. So I just fed it to him straight. And I think the idea behind that is that it's, first of all, it won't go bad typically like it does if you thin it down. Second of all, the bees, they kind of have to work at it. It kind of keeps them calm. They have that feeling of being, I'm not sure, just they know they feel like food is, and they're happier. And so there's not as much, theoretically, if you're feeding them when you put queens in, they're more likely to accept the queens. And so we'll see how it goes. I did film some last week setting them up, and I don't know if I'll do 2 different videos, just combine the videos. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to try to film a little bit of me making the splits and putting the queens in here in a couple of weeks, or here in couple of days actually, and we'll see what happens. So that's what's going on here in Southeast Alabama. Hot, humid, and football season's around the corner, and we're going to be making some more splits this weekend. I keep saying I keep saying I got enough bees, and then I get 28 queens from Zach and 20 from Greg. What do you do? What do you do? But honestly,
I'll be excited to see how things turn out for you, Bruce. Because I think you've done things a little different with your splits, and making big splits this year. I mean, I know you have in the past too, but making full box splits late in the year, putting a gallon of feed on, a week or so ahead of when you're going to be getting them that queen. Those are a couple summertime tricks for if you do have to requeen it really smooths out the temperament of a colony. Like you get into like Brian's scenario, if he had to requeen or make splits right now, it would be mayhem. He'd have to make sure he's got feed on them, a week ahead of time if there is no flow coming in. Right now in my neck of the woods, there is a little bit of a flow going on, so I can pull box splits, put a bucket feeder on, and next day drop a queen, no problem. So it's interesting how, although Brian and I are only 2.5, 3 hours away, it's completely different. But late summer, you can get by with bloody murder in the spring of the year. You can do no wrong, but at this time of the year, you have really got to be on point. You've got to have some experience on if you are going to be making some of these moves ahead of time. This is not the time of the year for a walk-away split. This is not the time of year to figure out whether or not you decide to do a mite wash or treat or not. It's at the very there. All the slack is being pulled, and it's make or break time.
There's a comment here about corn syrup being bad for bees. Just use sugar water. I think that I know that's what a lot of people say. I've heard that throughout my beekeeping career, but I know that my friend who is a commercial beekeeper that runs a couple thousand colonies, the guy I get the corn syrup from, he makes bees like crazy, has really good bees and sends them. He's a big commercial guy and uses nothing but that. It's so easy for him to bring it in tankers, fill up his big tanks with it, and then just makes bees like crazy. So I think that, possibly straight sugar, I guess what's the sugar you buy? Is it sucrose or what is it you buy at the store? The cane sugar, sugar beet sugar?
Sucrose. Yeah.
Sucrose. I think it's
Sucrose.
maybe a little better overall, possibly, but I have had no issues. I've used corn syrup in the past. I know a lot of people who have, and it may not be the best way, the most ideal thing to do, but I do know the bees have done well on it. I've had good success with it. It is not. I think it's a little bit of it's something that's said out there in a lot of beekeeping circles, but it's not as bad for the bees as some people think. Actually, it works quite well down here.
I think when people say it's bad for the bees, I mean, there are some arguments that, it can create a little bit of hydrogen peroxide and it's helpful to ward off hive beetles. But I think the thing to think about is I don't know that it's bad necessarily for the honeybees. I mean, if you really want to break it down, if there's glyphosate and if there's insecticides on the corn that's getting processed to turn into syrup, is there trace residues of that in the syrup still at that point? I mean, that's out of my pay grade. We're talking about trying to detail parts per million of that in 1 ounce of syrup, and what that looks like for the honeybees. So to say high fructose 55 is bad for bees, maybe the thing to say is it's not as good for the bees as sucrose syrup would be, but it's an economy of scale and it's a labor input. If you've got 10 colonies, it's pretty easy for you to see what the path forward looks like, just to go mix up some regular granulated sugar to mix up a batch of feed. But if you are looking to get a tanker of feed, you're not doing that. You're not using sucrose syrup because you can't mix it thick enough for it to actually be preserved. So then you're talking about you're mixing feed up every single time you would go to use it. I know personally we don't have that kind of time. We got to have our feed in totes already ready for us to go. And for us, we just put it on straight and we don't worry about it going sour. It's also a 3-to-1 when we do it that way too. At least it is with the Pro Suite that we use. So there's a lot of things to just think about rather than just saying 55 is bad for bees. It might not be as good as sucrose for certain tasks and certain things. But I can tell you, there is an awful lot of beekeepers who I know have been beekeeping very successfully at a very profitable scale year after year, and they use 55 and they use it straight. So I don't think there's equal comparison there across the board.
Yeah, Tom or Melissa says Lewis Bartlett has a great video on the comparison between the two, corn syrup and sucrose sugar. Shows the difference, and I'm sure there probably is a difference, but like I say, I've been using it off and on for years, and I have bees that do well. I also do mix up some sugar water with, I go buy the granulated sugar some as well, it's just so hard for me to. It's time consuming. Like I say, Greg, you got to go buy the sugar. It's overall a little more expensive, I think. And now some of the big commercial guys, I know there's a big commercial guy here in Alabama that buys. He goes to what do they call it? It's this kind of waste sugar. It's either from a candy
Sweet
factory
things or
or
screenings. Yeah.
whatever it is. And then but it's like usually it's rock hard and they have to use a jackhammer and break it apart and then
It's
they
a
mix
nightmare.
it up. And
It's the worst.
it's just not something I want to do. So anyway, see,
Bruce, can you kick? I got a picture down there. Can you? Speaking of via honeybees, there's a photo down there on the bottom. Can you kick that up?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
There's the brains of via honeybees. Don't let this Tom Sosman guy fool you. If J.W. Earham was here, he would say the same thing. There's Melissa. She's the brains of the outfit. But look at that. What do you think guys think about? Look at this thing. This is a bucket feeder pyramid. I don't have the whole story. It was something like in the middle of the night, there was strange lights and sounds. There were like cows being floated off the pasture up into the sky. It got weird. And then there was this, like there wasn't like crop circles left behind, but there was a Nature's Image Farm bucket feeder pyramid. Like, I don't even know. I'm not saying it was ancient aliens, but I'm not saying it wasn't. It's just one of those things here. But isn't that a sight to behold? Look at that thing.
Yeah, it is. It's quite impressive.
Would you look at that?
They put some time into stacking them up, didn't they?
So shout out to Tom and Melissa for their bucket feeder order. It's the time of year for feeding. I know we've already talked about that a great deal already, but it's that time of year. And I think Susie told me until midnight tonight, if you use discount code STREAMTEAM10, you can get our bucket feeders for $10. So if you go to our website at naturesimagefarm.com, check out if you buy the bucket feeders, you can get those for $10 a piece using discount code STREAMTEAM10 all the way until midnight tonight.
Awesome. Well, now is a great time. We have a special guest that's going to join us here for a few minutes, and I think some of you know him. Some of you may not, but he's got a couple products that he's kind of designed out there, and I'm actually utilizing them in my operation a little bit just to try them out for him. And so we'll bring him on right now, and let's introduce you to Jared Malcolm. Jared at Ozark Bee Barn. Hey, Jared, how are you this evening, man?
I'm great. How are you all?
Doing good. Good to have you on. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Well, if you could take just a couple minutes to kind of introduce yourself, tell us where you live at, kind of just what you're doing, tell us about your beekeeping operation, and just kind of introduce yourself to us.
Sure. So my business, I've got not that many hives, 20 something probably. And most of what I've done product wise is frankly to just be able to afford it. So they end up being expensive. But yeah, I've got a awesome mentor, and he's kind of had some products that he's developed over the years, and I've got a tech background. So I've basically just taken those and turned them into something that can be produced. So I think the first one I sent you was actually just the beetle crusher.
Okay.
And they just sit on top of the frame, and they basically serve as a place for the bees to corral small hive beetles, or the small hive beetles to escape the pestering of the bees. Either way.
Hey, Jared, turn that toward us so we can kind of see the other side of it. Turn it the other. There you go. See how there's a little space up there? The bees will drive the beetles into that area right there, and then
and I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but at the end there's actually a little like a standoff mark.
It's like a grip too. It kind of grips the frame.
Yep. But that standoff mark kind of gives you a starting point. You know, if you're like 21st bee and you're running small hive or small cell, you know, you're going to have to adjust that, but it gives you a good starting point. But when you open the hive, you just press those down, crush all those beetles that are in there. And again, it's just you just crush it in there, and it's very satisfying squish when there's a bunch of them in there. But then you just pop it off, clean everything out, and reset it for next time. And great thing about them is they just stay with the hive pretty much forever. They'll last for years. So unlike Swiffer or some of the other options, you don't need to take anything with you every time you go. You just leave them in there, and just ends up being part of your management.
Okay. Well,
the other
Yeah, before we move on, Brian, we're gonna get Jared has a couple of giveaways for us tonight.
Yeah.
So what we just want to put in there, just put in hashtag Beetle Crusher. Does that sound good? Or I'll tell you what. No, let's do this, Brian. Let's do hashtag Ozark Bee. That'll be better because he's going to have two different products in the giveaways. So I think that's right, Jared? Is that what we talked
Yep.
about? You're going to have a couple of kits with some different products. So.
Yep. But yeah, I normally do 4 of those in a single deep, and then I'll do a couple in a nuke. So it just, again, you can scale those up or down. If you got a hive that's really bad, you can put more in there. If you don't see much, then you can kind of spread them out thinner. So it just kind of, but nice thing about it, no poison or chemicals or anything like that you're adding.
Yeah, I think you sent me, I don't know what, 10 or 12 or 14 or something. And I haven't been back to the bee yard. I had to use them, and I haven't had a huge beetle problem this year, but in one of my bee yards, when we were applying the Roxanne strips a few weeks ago, one of them is in the shade, and they were pretty prominent in all those colonies. And so I utilized the beetle crushers in there, and we'll see how they do. I just got to get in there and just, I utilize my towels that I use, and I put beetle crushers in there. I also have some traps from RPB Works that I'm gonna utilize whenever I see a beetle problem. I just haven't had a lot of beetle problems this year so far, which has been a blessing. But the ones I put them in definitely had some beetles, so it's going to be kind of fun to have that satisfying crunch.
Yep, it always feels good.
So that's one solution that I think you've come up with. I like the idea of it, and the other one is a way to apply, helps with any type of strips, Roxanne strips or Apivar. Can you tell us what you're doing there?
Yeah, so it's super simple. And again, my mentor that's been doing it for years, he came up with both of these. I just thought they were great. So I've started producing those. These are just called a comb safe clip. The point is that they will center strips within frames. So, if you're using Apivar and you use their little tab, it always pushes up against one frame, and the bees are always going to dig out under that so they can get around it. These will center vertically within the frames, so it'll eliminate or greatly reduce that since it's not pushed up against the comb. The other way that you can do it if you're using like Roxanne is you can put those horizontally and it stays within the bars.
Okay.
If you're using double deep or something like that, where they would move up and over the bars quite a bit. And if you take the time to center it, one clip will do. If you want to just have it set up to drop, you can put one at each end.
Okay. I have if I can figure out how to do it. It's been a while since I've actually shared a screen. I haven't been able to, let's see. I don't know. It's been a while since I've done this. Chrome tab, window. There we go. All right, I'm going to show this right here. I applied some of those in I put Viroxin in all of my colonies about a little over a month ago. And Jared has sent me some of these. What do you call those, Jared? What's the name of those?
Comb safe clips.
Comb safe clips. Okay. And so I don't have a picture. I've got a video, but I don't have a picture of me actually applying them. But here's what they look like in the colony. Basically, I tore the Roxanne strips in half. This is how I did it. And I just put it between the frames. This is the equivalent of 4 Roxanne strips right here. And so they're really nice. They do hold the Roxanne straight up and down, so the risk of comb damage is less. One of the problems with Roxanne, I think Apivar is kind of similar, is that the way that the way you apply them is the frame that they're actually over usually isn't an issue, but it kind of expands out against the frame next to it. And when it's touching the comb, the bees don't like that. And so they kind of clean out behind it, and they don't utilize those cells very well. But the goal with this is to help eliminate that because it hangs directly straight down between the frames. And so it's not really touching the comb on either side, at least not as much as it would be. So that's what it looks like in my colonies. And I applied it to a few colonies. It does take quite a few of those clips, but it is pretty neat the way that is designed. And like you said, you can use it for the Roxanne or the Apivar or anything I think that hangs down between
anything strip
frames
base that would go between a frame. The other nice thing is you can move all your prep work indoors, so you're not out there,
that's true.
bending a tab out with Apivar. You can
Yeah,
You
if you're
know,
about to
get
go
your
out and do
packs,
it, mhm. Get your
get it
packs,
in the
get
air
them all ready,
conditioning,
put the
and
clips on, and yeah, that makes sense too if you want to do that. But anyway, it's a thought. So uh, I like the concept of it. Now I had 900 Veroxan strip or 895 Veroxan strips I applied, so that would have been a lot of these clips to utilize. But on the colonies I utilized it on, I used it on several of my colonies, just a few of them to try it out, and I really like the concept of it. You do have to kind of the way I did it was. Do you have one of those clips right there, Jared? Handy? Let me
Mhm.
how do I get rid of this? Brian, how do I unshare that?
Click in the very bottom. There should be an X.
Um, I don't see. I'm so dumb.
Microphone. So you have
Okay, there we go. So show us, Jared. Show us kind of. Do you have a strip right there? You could show us how to apply it real quick because it is a little
yeah.
tricky.
So I just put
That's
my
what you have
thumb
to
on
do right
the
there.
ridge.
Oops, what happened?
I just put my thumb on the
Brian, what are you
ridge,
doing? Yeah,
and that'll give you just
open it
enough
up a little
play
bit.
that you can easily push it on.
Yeah, I
So,
actually the Veroxan strips are kind of soft, and so at
mhm.
first I got it, and I'm like, man, I can't get it to go up in there. I was just trying to force it up in there, and it wouldn't work. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm gonna need to call Jared. And I tried it again later, and I'm like, all I have to do is just do what you did: a push up with the thumb and down with
Yep.
fingers, and it just slides right in. So I was just a big dummy. It took me a little while to figure that out. Sometimes I'm a little slow, and I'm a year older today, so that's why I'm getting old. My mind isn't working quite right. But anyway, I
Yep.
think they're pretty cool products, Jared. We appreciate you coming on and
Yeah.
tell us kind of a little bit where are you located at?
I'm in Southwest Missouri, so suburb of Joplin, which
Okay.
basically middle of nowhere. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, nothing,
All right.
nothing too exciting here.
Well, I don't know about that. You got bees, right? So that's pretty exciting. That's pretty cool.
Yep. No, I like it here. It's just
Well,
definitely
let's
not a big city.
so everybody, I guess hashtag Ozark Bees. We can just say bee or Ozark bee or Ozark bees. Brian, what'd you put in there? People are doing Ozark bee, but I don't know. Ozark bee. Okay. Let's go ahead and spin one of these, and then we'll talk a little bit longer, and we'll spin again. Tell us first of all what's going to be in the kit, there, Jared. Tell us what you're giving away.
So I'm going to give 2 hives worth of both. So you'll get 8 of the beetle crushers and 16 of the clips.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. That's a
And
pretty good value there too. It's enough for you to be able to see how they work for you, and and give it a real try. And the thing I like about these, I know the beetle crushers will last. Those things are super tough. They'll last a long time, and you can reuse both of the products. I think over time, you don't have to just
yeah,
order them every time you want to
no.
attack a
The
problem.
the
So
clips may get brittle over time if you're using Veroxan, just because that acid will eat away at the polymer. But they should last a good bit.
yeah, and
So
they're pretty inexpensive as well.
yeah,
Well,
and this is the debut for the clips. I don't even have those listed for sale on the website. That's coming up pretty soon. So
okay, well, that sounds
I'll
great.
get that posted pretty
So
pretty soon.
these people are going to get a prototype. If they get this, they'll have a prototype of the product. So that's pretty cool. But
Yep.
well, Brian, why don't we go ahead and do the first spin, and then we'll talk a little bit longer.
I can't play music like Greg does.
Yeah, I can't either. Curtis Smith.
There we go. Congrats, Curtis.
Awesome, Curtis. What is your website, Jared, so he can reach out to you?
It's ozarkbeebarn.com.
That's pretty easy.
Yep.
That's your website. Is that how they can get you email you on the website? Is that what you want them to do?
Do that or live chat, or it's just Jared at ozarkbeebarn if they want to, ozarkbeebarn.com if they want to email me. So,
All right.
but yeah,
So
the live chat is immediately to me, and I
okay.
get their information that way.
So Jared, Curtis, just to reach out to Jared, ozarkbeebarn.com or Jared at ozarkbeebarn.com. Anyway, go on the website, find them out, and you guys discuss it and get the shipping arranged there. And Jared will be sending those out to you. So Greg and Brian, you have any questions or comments for Jared? Anything you want to discuss?
I tell you what, if you have one of those beetle crushers that's good for when you find one small hive beetle.
I actually do have something for that I've got a patent that sticks to your hive tool.
We don't like where I'm at in Northeast Ohio. I always joke, like Bruce will say he'll go in and he'll find a colony, was slimed out. And I'll joke with him. I'll be like, I went out and I inspected the entire yard and I saw 10 small hive beetles. It's an infestation. We don't get them up here. Like when I did go through the other day on Sunday and spot checked a couple of my smaller colonies. And I think I saw one literally in I think 6 colonies. I think I saw one small hive beetle. So we just don't have them up here, thankfully.
I'd everybody put in Ozark Bee. If you were going to spend one more time, so go ahead and put it in there. We're going to talk a few more minutes, and we'll go another time. Greg, any thoughts?
I think you might need to start a new YouTube channel called Ozark ASMR. I think a lot of beekeepers would love to just tune in and just to hear that beautiful crunching sound of hive beetles getting obliterated. Thank God it's been a fantastic year without hive beetles up here in our neck of the woods. Some years we've had them, but it seems like for what we don't have, mites aren't hardly an issue right now, or hive beetles in our neck of the woods. So thank God for that. Probably had something to do with the -29 with the wind chill that we got for a few days straight this past winter time. But regardless of that, I think that's a neat concept that you have there to just mass murdering hive beetles when you can. The whack-a-mole thing is fun, but there's always those moments where you're trying to whack the beetles and they're in between the bees or under the bees, or the bees are trying, and so there's always that. So I like what you're doing there. I think that's pretty cool. As far as like the clips go and I don't have any experience with using anything that would require that, but I think that's, beekeepers are very ingenious.
Yeah.
So I think that's a neat thing that you're doing there. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jared, do you do those? Well, I'm going to pan this real quick.
Yep. I've got a few printers that they're on now. I'm actively looking at switching the crushers over to being injection molded, just because the orientation to make those hold up for a long time makes it a very slow print. So I've got several printers now, but yep, I'm looking at a way to switch those over to injection molding. So
right. Yeah.
Michael at 21st Bee says, see what happens when you live over in the boring part of the country like Jared and myself. Have to start making bee products when the town shut down at 8 p.m. nightly.
Yeah, I got to talk to him at the Kansas conference, and it was neat to get to meet him. So
yeah. Jared says you should, or Michael says you should give him a shout out about the molding process. So maybe he could give you some guidance on that. Reach out to Michael at 21st Bee.
Yeah,
will do.
All right, man. Well, I guess we can go ahead. I guess we can go ahead and spin again and see who else wins the second one.
Let me share it. Let me do giveaway. There we go. Draw again. Come on, Castle Hives.
Donna, Wallace Beehives.
There we go. Congrats.
Congratulations, Donna. Once again, reach out to Jared at ozarkbeebarn.com and he will get those out to you.
Let me throw that in here. Man, I'm having a hard time typing. Here is the website. There we go.
Is that your printer printing, Jared, or is it yours, Brian? I hear a printer going in the background for somebody.
I think it's a print off.
It's a print off. You guys are doing a print off here.
Right.
Chirp.
Both mine that are next to me are asleep at the moment. They just finished. So
yeah. No.
You guys, I am not techie at all. I'm glad there are people who are. When it comes to stuff like that, I'm like, I'll just let you guys figure all that stuff out, and I'll buy it from you or utilize it.
I'm tinkering, and Jared will know what I'm talking about, but I'm tinkering with ABS. So
I have no idea.
Temperamental at first, but once I got it all figured out. I got the settings all kind of fixed. Things are good. No warping, nothing on it. So yeah,
I've not messed with that yet. I just got an enclosed printer, so
yeah.
I'll be able to play with that some.
And not to derail on a printer thing, but the one that had the blue lights in the front of it, that's one of those new Prusa Core ones. And I got the advanced filtration on it. That way I could do like ABS if I needed to do like a very, very durable part. I could do ABS. And I don't smell. I mean, like I'm sitting 6 feet from it. I smell absolutely nothing. So,
do you ever got a question from Tom at Via Honeybees? Tom and or Melissa? Jared, are you going to be at the Missouri State Beekeepers Association Fall Conference in Kansas City?
Yep, I'll actually be giving clips away to everybody that's there as part of the registration. So,
okay, well, good deal. Well, there's your answer, Tom or Melissa.
It's Melissa.
All right. It's Melissa.
Tom just takes his picture. I do have a picture of Tom and his and the buckets there, but I think he just moved in there after Melissa stacked them all nice just to get his photo with the pyramid. That's what I think.
Well, it looks better with Melissa in there, but anyway. Well, Jared, we appreciate you coming on tonight. You have any final thoughts for us before you hop off? Anything else you'd like to
add? Nothing major. Just reach out if you got questions or yeah.
Yeah, I really like the idea. I mean, I like the idea of both, but that beetle crusher, it makes a lot of sense. I like the fact that, once again, there's no chemicals, no baits, no towels that the bees, I do use the towels. I kind of pull all the stops out when I have a high beetle problem, but with the beetle crushers, they just go under there, you crush them, and then, no bees get killed, and a lot of beetles do. And so if you have a real problem, you'll have to put, I think I had 6 colonies I put them in, so I had to use 12. I didn't have enough to put. I think you could put up to 4 or as many as you want in a colony, but I put 2 in each of those. So one of these days I'll get over there and just see how they work, and I'm sure they work great. Do you find that the bees tend to propolize the opening at all, though?
I've not had any issue with that, and I run Caucasians, so if there was a bee that was going to do it, it should be them.
I guess if they did, it would just trap the beetles inside anyway, so it wouldn't be an issue. That'd be just fine.
And they're hard plastic, so you crush it when you get there, and then
just scrape it off.
Scrape it off and reset it. But since there's not airflow, I've not really seen much of a. Yeah, I've just not seen that much. So
awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on tonight, Jared, and hopefully we'll get some business out of this. I'd encourage folks to check out his website and give it a try, and maybe we'll get those clips on there for the Roxanne 2 pretty soon, so folks can order those as well.
Yep, I'll do that in the next few days. So,
all right, man. Thanks so much.
All right, appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Take care, Jared.
Well, that was interesting. I think that's pretty cool. I love seeing people out there.
It's a slick idea.
New ideas and trying to fix a problem. So maybe summer beekeeping tips and tricks was the title of the chat tonight. So maybe we could spend a little bit of time. I know you guys aren't having much of a hive beetle problem up there, but maybe we could talk about a couple of different strategies for controlling hive beetles if you guys don't mind. Greg, do you have any? I know you have had issues with hive beetles a little bit in the past, I guess, or they have been an issue up there. Brian, you've never had too much of a problem, have you? It's not as far north as you are, and it could be your soil. They're kind of out in the sun, so you may not have that much of an issue. But I've got several things I've tried and strategies that are on label and some that are off label. But I know how to take care of hive beetles, and any tool you can add to the toolbox is good. But Greg, what type of suggestions would you have to kill those suckers or to get rid of them?
Right. Well, for all the on-label tender toes, when it comes to hive beetles, there's not a lot out there that actually works, that is actually on label. And just because something is off label doesn't mean that it causes any harm to the bees or the products in the hive. We've got an older video called Murder Sauce. What's actually pretty interesting is after we put that video out and called it Murder Sauce, an outfit started making something called Murder Sauce for hive beetles and put it on Amazon. It is not the same thing. But you can very cost effectively make up murder sauce for hive beetles. You can check out that video on our website to see if that's something that you want to get into. In the past, we were plagued with hive beetles, and it seemed like no matter what we did, it was very hard to get ahead of the hive beetles. Then we were on the main apiary was on a north-facing hillside, very heavy clay, anaerobic soil with spring seeps all the way up it. And so the soil was just dank. It was nasty. And we fought hive beetle as something severe. You'll hear it has been said a million times that all you need to prevent hive beetles is a strong, healthy colony in the sun. And that is 100% not true. I think where that suggestion comes from is, for the most part, if you have a hive or a colony of bees in the sun, then typically the soil under the colony is going to be in full sun. Therefore, for the most part, should be dry. That's well and good unless your farm is on a north-facing hill with spring seeps. Then it doesn't matter where you're at in full sun. You have a certain type of water structure and soil type. That saying doesn't hold true. So we would find strong colonies, triple deeps could get slimed out in full sun in those scenarios. And so we had to really scramble to try to figure out something because they were actually running rampant in the colonies. So that's where murder sauce came in. In the brief synopsis there is we're mixing up Crisco diatomaceous earth, some eucalyptus oil, and some food coloring, and we're applying that to the bottom board in a couple of areas. And the idea there is the hive beetles ingest it. When they ingest it, it kind of just blisters them, cuts them up from the inside out. We've never had any ill effect with the bees, the queens, anything like that at all in it. We also would do things. Isn't the murder sauce a pesto? Well, it could be a pesto. Pesto. See, Brian, that dude is smart. He's got the looks, he's got the smarts, and he's got the creamed honey. I mean, he's a complete package. Good thing he's taken, ladies. So we would have to use the murder sauce, aka pesto. That would help, but we would still have some issues. So we started putting the black landscape fabric, not like the fuzzy, cheap stuff that rips, like the woven polypropylene striped stuff that you'll see at a lot of greenhouses and such. We would put that underneath of our colonies, and that seemed to help tremendously. From there, there was a couple other things that we did, but specifically using a type of a Swiffer sheet was tremendous. Was probably one of the best things. Just mass murder of hive beetles and those things. And then also we also found through a tip, spending some time with Bob Benny and Chris Werner down at Chris's place, is Chris would use mix up like an essential oil blue towel scenario to put onto his colonies after an Apogard treatment, just to kind of help soothe their exoskeleton. And as I tried that, I noticed it seemed to also be working pretty good for hive beetles as well. So those are things that we had to do and stay on top of. When we moved from that farm to the new farm, just a half mile, it's from one ridge to the other. It's been a completely different scenario. Much better soil tilth and soil health, soil drainage, soil type, solar perspective. And because of that, we just don't see the problems. I think the last time we talked, maybe I had seen less than 20 hive beetles all season. In the last week or 10 days, I maybe have seen 1 or 2 hive beetles in all my inspections. So, I mean, it's just, we'll take that win for right now. But those are the things that we have done in the past. But like Bruce mentioned, soil type, solar perspective, soil tilth, soil health is also a super huge factor to consider.
I think it's such a interesting topic because I'll have one bee yard that'll be hammered with them, and then one just a little ways away won't have much of a problem. There's so many things that I've tried, and frankly, one of the things I heard about probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and Eric Spirit of Toad talks about it in here, is that the active ingredient Grubex does not harm the bees, but it will absolutely annihilate high beetle larvae. And so I know Bob Benny at the University of Georgia has been doing some studies. Well, Bob Benny hasn't been, but the University of Georgia has been doing some studies putting it in pollen pays. But I don't think we need to do that until they have some. It's not the actual. They don't just put Grubex in them. They do something different. It's the active ingredient. But what's worked well for me, I believe, I just started putting Grubex in the yard. Grubex has, I think Eric talked about what the actual active ingredient in it is. Let's see what he said. He's been, I think there's some truth to treating the soil, but whatever, it's chlorotriptanoprol, and it is not harmful to the bees. The bees aren't going to be in the soil anyway, right? They're going to be flying in and out. So, but I spread that stuff. I got really religious about it and really particular about it last year. I treated probably 4 or 5 times, and didn't have as much of a high beetle problem last year. And this year I've also tried to treat my yards, and I've had very little high beetle issues this year. Now, I went to a hive beetle talk at the conference at the expo, where the gentleman that's been doing the studies on the whatever that ingredient is, clininopertril or whatever it's called, where he was talking about how they were doing the testing with the pollen patties. And someone brought up the question about spreading it in the soil, and he said that he didn't feel like that would work, but I do believe it works. I think just putting it around the colonies, I'll do it. I'll treat them. Like I'll start like in the early spring. Lots of times late in the fall, like you can get Grubex for really cheap at these at Home Depot. And so my wife just kind of buys them out. She gets several bags of it in the fall, and then I just start treating them like in February or March. I'm just out there treating the bees. When I'm done, I just spread it all around the colonies, and then I try to do it every 2 to 3 months throughout the summer. And I think it's helped. But now it hasn't completely eliminated them, but the numbers have been down. I've only had one or two. I've only had like one, maybe two colonies that I would consider to even be close to a slime out this year, and they really weren't bad slime outs. I have had some dead outs that had high beetle larvae in the bottom, but they weren't slimy. Like it wasn't like a slime out. It was more like a opportunist type things where the beetles came in towards the end and just kind of got in the pollen and kind of were down there writhing around in the bottom. But as far as like them actually coming in and destroying colonies, I haven't had as much of a problem since I've been doing that. I do have one spot where they're still pretty bad, and it's in the shade and sandy soil. I do think, Greg, I agree that the type of soil that they're in, it does make a difference as well. But there are treatments you can utilize in the colonies as well. One of my favorite things, I'm trying these beetle crushers out now, and one of my favorite things is, Brian, I don't know if you can Google. It's called a Dixie H700 disposable towels. It's the same principle as the Swiffer sheets, but it comes in a box of 150 sheets, and you can treat 3 boxes per sheet. And so if you have like, even with the number of colonies I have, a box will last me more than a year. If I treat everything, it'll last me for a year or so. But these Dixie disposable towels H700, they're pretty big. Like they're probably, I don't know, they're longer than the length of, they're probably 23 or 24 inches long, probably 2 feet long, I'm guessing. And they're probably maybe 18 inches wide, 12 to 18 inches wide. You can pull it lengthways. You pull them in strips and you just lay them. I lay them from front to back of the top of the colony, and it catches the beetles a lot, much like Swiffer sheets, very similar principle. You will see a few bees here or there caught in the towels. And so it's not 100% beef proof. That's similar. That's a blue one. Do you see a box like this is kind of like, this is what the box looks like on, this right here. I'll just show it to you. That's the box I use right there, Amazon. And that is, how much is $71 for 150 sheets. And each sheet is, you can put it into 3 to 4 strips. And so you can get a lot of use out of that. And they're really good towels too, to use around your kitchen, around your house. I mean, they're really nice towels. So if you're not using them completely for the bees, they're really, really good. And they are really, I utilize those. That's been a game changer for me. I've used those for many years. I also use, now I've introduced the beetle crushers. I also have used beetle blasters in the past. And I've used the oil, which I hate. The oil will spill on the bees, and if it happens to fall on your queen, she's a goner. That oil, that vegetable oil, drops on the bees, it'll kill them. And so another thing you can utilize is diatomaceous earth. Greg talked about that a little bit. You can utilize that in the beetle blasters, the beetle traps, or in if you got like the apamaze in the bottom tray, you can put it in there. And then there are certain baits you can put in there that are not on label, but they do work, and the bees can't get to them. And I've utilized that in the past. And that if I really have a problem and I've got a colony that's really loaded up with beetles, I'll pull out all the stops because it's going to be a dead out anyway. And just to get rid of as many beetles as possible, I've used what's it called? Golly, I've used this stuff. It's a bait. It's a roach bait that I've used in them, and it absolutely Advion, and it'll completely fill a trap up with beetles. You put 1 or 2 drops in the very bottom of that trap, and it fills the whole trap up. But I don't like to use that. I don't use it as often as I used to. But if I really got a problem, I'll use that. And so those are all kinds of things you can try. But I really do think that one thing, kind of my favorite thing that I've done, I think that's really made a difference is I think the Grovex has helped in the ground around the colonies, and you just got to apply it every couple 3 months throughout the year, and I think it can help knock that down. The other thing is there's a product called Bye Bye Beetle out there. It's a little beetle barn type looking trap that you put in the bottom of the colony, and I purchased a box of those at the expo, and I'm trying those out as well in a few colonies. And there's a bait that goes in there. It is I assume it's approved because they were selling it at the expo. And I think that'll work too. If you got a problem, you put it in the corners of the bottom of the colony, and those bees will drive the bee. When you open it, when you have a real problem with hive beetles, you'll pull the bottom box off. Greg, you've seen this, I'm sure. And there'll be hundreds of beetles. The bees corner them in the corners, and so you'll just have beetles just in stacks. I mean, there's the bees. It's like they're herded like you're herding cattle. So you know what I mean? Like if you got cattle, you're herding them, and the cutting horse has got the calves in a corner, like they don't want to let them out. That's what the bees are doing. They're like keeping them in that corner. But you put these bye-bye beetle traps in the very bottom corners, and the beetles run in those traps, and it kills them as well. They eat that bait. And I think it is a borax type. I'm not sure what the active ingredient is, but let's see. Spirit of Toad. Yeah. Eric says if you're using Advion, you're a minute late. That's true. That's all I used it way back in the day, and people told me I couldn't do it, but I saved a lot of colonies using that stuff. I even put it in at the beginning of the year and utilize it throughout the summer, but it's not on label. You're really not supposed to do that, so I don't really talk about that much. Yeah, boric acid, David Hunter, you're right. Boric acid is what they put in the Bye Bye Beetle, but those are down here in Alabama and in much of the country, beetles can be an incredible problem, and so I think it's important that we do discuss that a little bit. This is the time of year right now when people are starting to experience slime outs and dead outs from the beetles. So it is important to address that. Greg, I wonder if you've noticed, Brian, you don't have much of a problem with hive beetles, but just tell me if this is something you've seen in the past. This is what I see a little bit now. I think that the beetles, do you believe the beetles can sense a colony that is sick, even if it doesn't look sick? Have you noticed that? In other words, if you have a bee yard that has, say, 20 or 30 colonies in there, have you noticed sometimes that there might be one colony that's got a lot of beetles in it, even though the hive may look fairly strong, where the rest of them may not? Have you seen that before?
I mean, I've heard that they can sense that, but I also think they're opportunists, and so they go try a strong colony and they get ran out. You get into a colony who's weak and who's nutritionally deficient. They're losing numbers. They don't have the guard bees to run the hive beetles around. The hive beetles get to the pollen area of the frame and just start going to town. So, I mean, I've also heard that, well, let's just say people say a lot of things. And just because we hear it, I don't know if it's true or not. I've heard hive beetles don't like the smell or scent of dead hive beetles. So if you smush hive beetles, leave the dead hive beetles where they are. I mean, I've never tried to remove them that I can think anyways. I'm not sure, but I don't know that they sense a colony who is sick. They might, but they I think at a minimum can pick up on the fact that a colony's does not have a good solid defense, and when they don't have a defense, they can just start running rampant. Otherwise, like when if I see hive beetles this time of year, it's going to be when I crack open the lid. When I crack open the lid, our bees have propolized a corral around the hive beetles, and it's not until you crack open the lid where they're just cutting loose.
That's right.
But I don't see them sliming things. I don't see them crawling all over the frames. Nothing like that anymore.
Yeah, Mike Berry talks about that's one reason he doesn't get in too much in the summertime, because the bees do kind of, a good strong colony does, they do have methods to corral them and contain them. One thing I have noticed though, I believe that, and like I say, the word sick might not have been the right word, but if I'm going through a bee yard that's got a lot of colonies in it, and I just have one colony that's just loaded up with beetles and the other colonies don't have any beetles in them to speak of, typically that's an indicator that colony is probably on the way out. Whether they're sick already, it's kind of like what you mentioned. For whatever reason, they're weaker. They may not even look that weak, but I've noticed that. Now, if I go into a bee yard where all the colonies have beetles in them, and that's a problem with the bee yard. That's something we got to address in all the colonies. But usually, if I just see random colonies that are full of hive beetles, typically I think that colony, you come back in a week and they're gone. Either they get slimed out or they just die out. It seems like that's kind of how it works for me. I do know, like I said, I think this past weekend I went through quite a few colonies the past 2 or 3 weeks, and I have seen a few dead outs, not many, but in every single dead out there were, the strong colonies, the live colonies, I didn't see hardly any beetles. But in all the ones that were either almost dead out or dead outs, I did see, I pulled the bottom box off, and we had a layer of pollen, that powder pollen that they use when they destroy the colony. It's just like a powder pollen on the bottom, and you really can't see anything. But when you start using the hive tool and you start scraping that stuff around, and you see all the hive beetle larvae, they're just living in that stuff until they drop out, I guess, to go ahead and finish pupating. I'm not sure if they can finish pupating in that stuff or not, but when you start scraping it with the hive tool, you'll see beetles and all that stuff. And so one of my favorite things to do, it's maybe even a little more crazy than the beetle crusher. I like to get out the old blowtorch and just go to town on them. Just take that hive tool, expose a bunch of those larvae and beetles, and just run that blowtorch over the top of them.
Oh yeah,
they can't handle the heat. I mean, that's one thing. They're pretty tough, but they're not tough with that heat, and it's kind of fun to
sizzle.
Do it. It's just like you got fried hive beetle larvae and fried hive beetles there, but it absolutely annihilates them. And anyway, I think that's kind of an interesting topic, and we could talk about hive beetles all night. But those are a few strategies I've used. I probably should just, if I can find the time, go out and just do a video on the methods I use to control hive beetles, because I have some videos like that in the past. But I've killed a lot of hive beetles over the years with different methods, and I do really think that the Grub-X does make a difference, though. Even though I can't remember his name, I can't remember his name, from the University of Georgia. His theory is that by the time the larvae have dropped into the ground, they're no longer eating. They're just going into that mode whatever the stage is between the larvae and the mature beetles. So they're not eating anymore. They don't eat the grass roots and things, and that's when they consume it. But I don't know. I just feel like there's a difference. Obviously when they're in the larvae, or not in the larvae, but when they're in the pollen patties, they're eating that actively, and so they would consume it. But I'm telling you, it just seems like it works to me. I've had much less of a problem the last couple of years since I've been using that Grub-X. All right, what time is it? This thing, yep, 8:30. Somehow we always end up. Yeah, Dr. Lewis Bartlett, that's his name. Eric's on top of it, man. He's on his A game tonight. Eric, I think, is about my same age. He might be a little bit younger than me, but man, he's sharp. He's sharp as a tack. That's Spirit of Toad. He's one smart guy. You could pick his brain all night. He's got a lot of great ideas. Let's address a few questions and comments here, guys, if you'd like. That'd be good.
Rapid fire.
We're gonna go back to the beginning of the chat tonight. We do have a few things, a few different comments we're gonna address here, and hopefully the folks are still on here that put them out there. First of all, Brian, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. That really helps the channel, as you know, and I appreciate both of you guys so much. A question, Greg, are you carrying the Maxim filters for the single basket unit?
Roy, you're probably talking about the Pale Pal filters. Yep, and we sure do. If you just want to shoot us a message, right to our website, hit the contact us, shoot us a message, or give us a call or shoot us a text here at the shop. We can definitely get those. We've got those in stock. But I think you're talking about the Pale Pal filters. You've seen that Pale Pal go right into the 5-gallon bucket top. Great way to filter out some. That's it right there. Yeah, great way to filter out honey. Yeah,
is that what you were
awesome.
talking about last week, Greg? Is that the filter?
Yeah, and they're so different and unique than a typical stainless mesh strainer. And if anyone has ever used a regular mesh strainer, you'll want to just about quit producing honey because they're a nightmare. These, for whatever reason, I mean, I think we've gotten clear up to like 7 or 8 5-gallon buckets in that before we have to just kind of move the wax cappings around, and then once you do that, you're good to go. But you can just as easy just pop that off and throw another one in real quick if you just want to keep rolling. But it's a really easy way to get the wax out.
Is that what kind? Is that like what material is that filter made out of? Is it like a mesh, almost like a paint filter, or what's it made out of?
Yeah, it's I think it's about a 300 micron nylon mesh. It's an interesting construction because it's not as soft and loose as a paint strainer. There's a little bit more dimensional stability to it, but it's flexible enough. What's really neat about it is the way that it actually hugs the inside grating of the bottom of that the Pale Pal itself. It hugs all that surface. When you hit it with honey, it just kind of sucks to it. And so I think what it does is opens up just like complete surface area in a much different way than a mesh strainer would be. And then there's more structure to it than just a paint strainer. So I really like it. And what's also nice about it, when you put that in your bucket, you don't have to pull out anything. You don't have to pull out a hop spider or anything and have to drain it. Or it's very easy to just let the honey go through, and then it'll leave about an inch and a half or so from the very top of your bucket completely full before it hits that. And you just pop that thing up, and it fills up. So it's a very nice piece of equipment for sure.
So do you have to, for example, I guess my question is that what we do is we utilize, we have like a metal strainer we put on top of the buckets, and then we pour them in through a hop spider into a bigger container and drain them, which I think is a similar principle to the hop spider. It sounds like, if it is able to, leave throughout both sides. So what's that noise? Is that your printer? Heard something there.
Something
I heard that.
Anyway, but so can you put the contents of the extractor straight in there, or does it just fill up with wax pretty quickly? I mean, what happens there?
No, we have the extractors just open, full open into that thing and just let it rip. So as soon as we start spinning, it's going right into that nonstop. So we'll have one under the capping tank and one under the extractors, and just let it rip. And it works out really well.
Sounds like a pretty cool tool. I may see.
Might be something. Maybe we should think about getting you one next year when you're spinning honey and try that versus the metal sieve thing.
Yeah, maybe so. We'll give it a try. When using Swedish Varoxan sponges, how many sponges per hive? Is it only 2 in the lower brood box, or is it 2 in each? Can't find clarity. I think he's probably talking about the sponges, not the Varoxan strips like I'm using. Greg, I have not used those. Do you use 2 per box, or just 2 in the bottom box?
I think the question is, it depends. Swedish sponges, that's going to be based on the dilution ratio and how much OA liquid you have in the sponge and what type of sponge it is. If it's a standard Swedish sponge, I think for the most part, folks are using 2 to 3 of those strips that are maybe a 2-inch by 6-inch strip or so, 2-inch by 7-inch strip or so. I have no idea how that compares to Varoxan, but I think
he's got to be talking about the homemade.
I would go right to Randy Oliver's website because he spells it out specifically, and I'm pretty sure he is I want to say it's 2 of the 2-inch by 7-inch strips, I think, or 2.5-inch by 7-inch strip.
Yeah.
That's if you're mixing it up and your concentration is according to that ratio,
Yeah. Yeah, I just have to. I would refer you also to Randy Oliver. If you're talking about the actual official Varoxan strips, you use 4 of those per. You use 1 of those per 2.5 frames, and so in a 10 frame box, you use 4 of those. In a deep box, in mediums, I use 2, and I broke them in half, so it's like 4 little strips hanging down. But it's in the mediums only. It's not near as big, and so I kind of divided them up that way. But gosh, there are a couple of questions. Comments are coming in. It's so cool. Let me see something here real quick. I wanted to get a comment from.
I just threw the link into chat that goes right to Randy's website, Scientific Beekeeping, and it goes directly to the extended release oxalic acid, his write up and recipe.
Okay, good deal. Appreciate it, Brian. If you see any questions come in, just flag them for me because I can't keep up with both the starred ones and try to get the new ones too. So if you see any, just grab them. Here we go. We got Matthew says had one, I'm gonna say heck of a year, double my all-time best, just over 1,800 pounds of honey this year, all with my 2-frame Vevor extractor. Guess what piece of equipment is first on my list after this year? Greg, you got any recommendations?
Well, time is money. With 1,800 pounds of honey, figure out what kind of time you had into that. There's a couple of pieces of equipment that you can easily upgrade from there that I think are huge. The first one would be a little bit bigger extractor for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's always. But then you got to have a way to feed the extractor. So you're talking about an uncapping tank of some sort. So by the time you go to uncapping tank and then extractor, now you're producing stuff fast enough. You're filling up 5-gallon buckets, and then at 1,800 pounds, you're past the I'm filling bottles up from a 5-gallon bucket and gate valve. You may want to think about a nice 16 or 30-gallon bottling tank, and that can also just further improve the quality of the honey too, as you can keep it at a very low temperature. And all whatever fine particles might be left in it goes to the top. It further clarifies the honey, and then it also thickens it up some too. So it can create a really high quality product with just a couple pieces of equipment. Of course, we are partial to Maxent products. They're actually made in the USA, like for real, all the components. That's a big deal for us. The stainless, the fabrication, the electronics, everything. American hands, American labor, supporting American families and the American beekeeper. It's not just some imported with a label on it. So if you want to talk more about that, give us a call here at the shop or shoot us a message, and I can talk to you in detail, the ins and the outs of a lot of the Maxent equipment, how to use it, tips and tricks, and maybe one of those would be a good fit for you.
Yeah, we went from a 3-frame hand crank extractor. Sounds like it's kind of similar to what you were using. It wasn't Vevor, but I think it was a Chinese little deal that we used. I got it for cheap. We probably got up to about your size before I went ahead and invested in a Maxent 20-frame extractor back in probably 2018, something like that. And then we actually outgrew that one too. But that thing made, it's such a difference when you have a better piece of equipment, a bigger piece of equipment, and that you don't have to hand crank it. You can just turn on a switch and increase the speed, and so forth. It works so much better. But as Greg said, if you have a great extractor, but it takes you forever to uncap, then that can become a problem too. So you do kind of have to upgrade, at the same time. You kind of have to, because you'll find bottlenecks. If your extractor can hold 20 frames, but it takes you 30 minutes to fill it, then is it really faster? So you do have to kind of build up in time. We actually went for a while, I think a fair amount of time, utilizing that extractor before we finally broke down and bought the bottling tank that we have, the Maxent bottling tank. And I've used that thing, thousands and thousands of bottles through that thing. It's a 16-gallon. I pour 2-3 buckets at a time in there, just make sure they're decrystallized, and then just bottle them up. I've got the dripless valve, and it's great. But that's, all that stuff is expensive, and so you have to kind of you got to look at your finances and make sure you can afford it. But if you're planning on growing, or you're planning on, it comes to the point where time is money. If you're able to get rid of your honey and sell that honey, then utilize. What I did was I just saved my money. I utilized my money that I made from the honey to buy bigger pieces of equipment. And over time, I've been able to build up to now where we have a pretty nice extraction and bottling setup that still is not perfect, but it works really well for us. And I'm a pretty good sized sideliner right now, and it works for us the way we do it. So even this year, we worked out a few more kinks, and I'm sure there's more things to work out in the future. But we've got a pretty good operation going now. Congratulations, though, Matthew. That's awesome.
It's a lot of honey. That's great.
Now, Brian, what is your volume? You're not quite to 1,800 pounds yet, are you? Where are you at with yours?
No. The most I've ever pulled up here was 600.
That's still a pretty significant amount, and you've already found the benefits also of the more efficient. I mean, because if you just have a little tiny extractor, and if you just have like the old hot knife, or just, and like you're doing it in the bucket with the cone cap. It just, you don't realize at the time how slow you are doing that. But when you actually become more efficient with better equipment and bigger equipment, there's just no way I could go back to doing that again. It would just drive me crazy.
I'll tell you, in all honesty, like if I had 1,800 pounds and I had a small extractor, the very first thing I would get is the bigger extractor.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then after that, the bottleneck is, you'll find your bottlenecks very fast, and it'll be like what Greg said. Very next thing, and I'm kind of thinking back a couple years of when I started making a couple 100 pounds of honey, and it was like a 2 or 3 frame. It was a hand crank extractor that I hooked an impact drill up to because I got sick of hand cranking it. It was hillbilly,
I remember when I was going to do an extractor, I thought, I looked at the drill ways to do homemade ones with drills and everything. You can get a reasonable extractor for just a few $100s. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars. You can get a decent 10, 9, 12, even 18 frame extractor for a reasonable price.
Anything's better than crush and strain. You guys you're talking about hand extractors, but I can remember some of the first harvests where we were all on natural drawn comb. You're squeezing it through all this stuff, and you're just thinking, "Oh my gosh, what is that?" At 1,800 pounds, though, if you run the basic numbers on that, if you're on the average honey price in the U.S., retail is probably about $12 a pound. Of that, you're going to net between probably $9.25 and $10 a pound. So you're looking at right around a $16,000 to $18,000 net gain if you can move all of that. Think about if you could actually process that in 75% less of the time, and put you on to actually marketing and moving it, delivering it, selling it, working on your website, all those things. It becomes, at that scale, you're looking at, 30 frame uncapping tank, a 20 frame extractor, a 16 or a 30 gallon bottling tank, and you're not looking at that much money. Especially if you buy good quality and you buy once, cry once. It will be well worth it for the amount of aggravation and time that you save yourself to, with that many, if you're pulling that much honey, that's a significant, 1,800 pounds on average in the U.S. If you're looking at, let's say, a 70-pound average, that's 25.7 colonies. So he probably has right around, 32 to 38 colonies, of which 25 were producing. Brian, that's where Brian's going to be at. Brian will be there next year.
Yeah,
you're almost there now.
He's already cleared off spots for 2 more rows.
You got to think about that. It sneaks up on you quick, and you're at 3 o'clock in the morning for 3 nights in a row extracting honey, and you tell yourself, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know it was going to be this much work."
Yeah,
that's right.
I spent
for sure
the last time that I worked with that smaller extractor, I spent probably 22 hours over a weekend extracting honey. And I just thought, I can't do this, So I got the bigger extractor. And then right after that, it was the immediate bottleneck was the uncapping tank. So probably what I would do, like if you do have the funds, I would purchase both of them at the same exact time.
As a unit,
That
right.
way, and just like what Bruce said, consider it a unit, because if you do get a larger extractor, well, what I was doing is I was just sitting there staring at it spin, and I couldn't uncap the next round. So there's a delay in the process. Both of those together, it's buy once, cry once is about all that is, because you will be ever so happy that you did.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome stuff. Let's move on here. But yeah, it's and everybody, I understand it if you're just getting started, or if you are trying to do things for the most efficient way possible financially, if you don't want to go into debt and things like that. But there comes a point where if you're serious about it and your operation grows, it's worth it just to spend some money and get the better equipment. And now I'm to the point after I'm in 12 years now in where now I pretty much just try to buy really quality equipment. Everything I do, the equipment, whether it be boxes, extracting equipment, bottling, anything I'm getting, I try to get good equipment that's going to last me a while. So,
Yep.
Greg, I appreciate the super chat from way back in the beginning. He says better late than never. You weren't on very late, maybe about 5 minutes. So that's okay. We appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for popping on. And
again, for folks who are just now turning in, Bruce turned 29 times 2 today. So make sure you leave him a happy birthday comment now, and also a happy birthday comment when this video posts.
Yeah,
29 times 2.
The second 29 seems a little bit harder than the first 29.
Yeah,
I feel different
more
than after the
experience.
first 29. Yeah. Freedom
Bruce, let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So what would 29 times 2, Bruce, tell 29 times 1, Bruce? If you could go all the way back and tell yourself one thing that you wish you knew then that you know now. One thing.
Well, I mean, I don't. Man, there's a lot of things. What?
What do you say?
I said, ditch the Bama hat.
What I would probably say is you need to look into honeybees, because I didn't get into bees until I was 46.
Start sooner. Okay.
But there are a lot of things, there are a lot of things I would do differently, or that I would tell myself. But there are a lot of things I still wish I could do now that I could do then, but I just physically can't do them. So, it's a trade-off. Pat at Freedom Apiaries, thank you so much for the super chat. He wished me a happy birthday. I appreciate it. It's been a good day. I'm not one that's all pomp and circumstance with my birthday. I really don't care if we talk about it much at all, but I do appreciate folks that remember and think about me. It's awesome. Justin Strom says, happy birthday. Your videos are very cool. Thanks for your info last week about the strainers. Yeah, appreciate you. The super chat tonight. It really does mean a lot. And thanks for the birthday wishes. I appreciate that, man. Oh, let's see here. I'm slow, guys. After all these years, I still am slow. Let's see. We got Highland Honey, $20. Happy birthday, Bruce. Appreciate it, Highland. Thanks so much. Mary, not sure how you said the last name, Wickenheiser. Thanks so much. She says, thanks for YouTube work. I keep learning. Mary, that's all we're all trying to do is still learn. And that's one reason we do these chats. I appreciate it. Nancy, all right, Nancy Tasker, Nancy the beekeeper. She asked, Bruce has a cool hat. Who is it? Okay, this hat right here, this hat was made by Brian Lee. Yes, I don't know if you can see it very well.
The Brian Lee.
Brian Lee, Birmingham, Alabama. It's the Bruce's Bees logo. And I had a few of these made. I'm probably going to get some more made. I've had a few I've given away to family and friends, and a few like this color, different colors. I also have a hat he made for me like this with the old Bruce's Bees, all lowercase, which is my company name there that he did for me. So he's made me a few hats, and with the logo. And the story with my logo is kind of interesting. Years ago, this thing's on backwards. Hold on. It's been on backwards the whole night. But anyway, the story with my logo is years ago, I was out in Utah visiting my in-laws. We were out there, our family was, and one of my nephews heard me talk about how, man, I sure would like to get a logo, design a logo. It's probably been 6 or 7 years ago now. Maybe not that. Yeah, probably about that long, 5 or 6 years anyway. And so he just went to work. He's like, "What do you want?" And he's kind of a techie guy, kind of that type of a kid. And he just worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. This is the logo he came up with, and it turned out pretty cool. And I was thinking I was going to update it a little bit a while back, and then I just looked at it. I'm like, you know what? It's a pretty cool logo. I like it. So I've started getting a little bit of merch. I've got some T-shirts I've had printed up and some hats, and I don't, haven't done a lot of merch. I'm not sure really how to move that or what to do. If that's something you guys might be interested in, I might make some more hats and get Brian to make me up some more. And they are pretty cool. I was up in Arkansas like a couple of weeks ago, and I gave my future son-in-law one of these hats. Probably a year and a half ago, and he was wearing it when I got up there, super hot, all sweaty. And I'm like, man, you like the hat? You could tell he worn it a lot. And it's the leather or it's the vinyl, whatever it is, however you kind of press them on there, heat press. And the little antennas or whatever here on the top are kind of peeling out a little bit. He said, I've just worn it so much and sweated so much in it that is just getting old. But he wears that thing all the time. And I guess a lot of people ask him, what is that? Who's what is that? And so he says that, it's a bee. And then he talks about the business. And so anyway, it is a pretty cool logo. I actually like it a lot. But to answer your question, Nancy, it's my logo, Bruce's Bees logo. All right, let's see what we got here. I apologize for being slow here.
Yeah, 29 times two.
Roy Pro says, how is the temperament of the Kona Queens? I think they are Kona Queens, but they're from the Big Island, but actually they're Heinzelman and apiaries. I'm not sure if he would classify them as Kona Queens. Maybe he does, but they're kind of his own line. I think he's tried to come up with out there, but they are Italian Cordovan mix primarily. They're beautiful yellow bees, and they're very gentle. They're just really nice bees, very productive and gentle, and I like them a lot. The one drawback I would say is that they are not super mite resistant. You do have to treat them, but otherwise, I've been real happy with them. They do real well here in our climate down here in Southeast Alabama, which is probably similar to Hawaii a little bit. It's probably a little hotter here, I would guess, but it's probably a similar climate, and they do well here. I like them a lot. All right. DC says, many of mine are real close to being bound up. I'm giving them some open space, pulling some of the partial pollen honey frames to give them some laying room. I'll put the frames in my freezer. That sounds wise. I see DC, be sure you give those bees space to lay. Any comments you guys have on that real quick? Sounds like he's doing the right thing.
Yep, that's about all you can do. Get a couple frames for her to lay. Pull the honey up or pull it out. Pull some brood up. That's about all you can do.
What I found too, Greg, I don't know what you think about this. I have colonies. It seems like every year they get, the brood really gets condensed down. Like sometimes I've done better this year at managing the space. This year I didn't see this as much. But in the past, I've had colonies that were not completely honey bound, but they had a real small brood area. But usually we have a pretty significant dearth in the summer. And when that happens, they tend to start eating their way out of that honey and increasing their brood space a little. So they kind of figured out, as long as they're not completely honey bound, if they get complete honey bound, they'll crash because there's no place for that queen to lay. At least that's kind of how it seems like it is down here.
Yep.
All right. Another one from DC. He says, we were talking about that earlier about the difference between sugar, granulated sugar, and corn syrup. We've already talked about that a little bit. He says, I think the corn syrup can give the gut issues if they have to stay in the hive much during the winter. Am I wrong? At Castle Hives, he says, do you guys have any comments on that? I'm not sure if that's the case, but honey can do that as well. If they, they can get gut issues just from eating honey as well in the wintertime. Is that not correct? Because the nectar, I think, is better for the bees than anything else.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with beet sugar. He retyped that in shortly after that and put at nature's image.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think beet sugar and cane sugar are both sucrose, aren't they, Greg? They're both kind of similar, but I'm not sure about that.
Say again?
I think beet sugar and beet sugar and cane sugar are both sucrose. They're similar type sugars, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's the sucrose is similar. I think it's some of the other things that may or may not. There's so much you can Google that and get information either way. I don't have personal experience with beet sugar to say I have seen it do this or I have seen it do that. I've heard that from some folks it's still sucrose, it's fine. And I've heard some folks that say, well, it is still sucrose, but there's enough of a difference in there that it can cause thus
Issues.
and such. But
I don't
know. People
I
say a lot
think,
of things.
you know, the point I've gotten to in my beekeeping career is I used to split hairs about every little thing like this.
Yep.
And now I try, and if it works, I use it. If it doesn't, I don't, you know, so I've gotten kind of past trying to, you know, there are people that love to split hairs and go into every little detail, every little scientific thing. I just don't have the energy to do that. And
I ain't got time for it or the care.
So, but the bees,
if you would spend that much time splitting hairs, if you would take that time and go crack lids and get in your colonies, you'd be less concerned about splitting hairs and more concerned about moving your bees in creating forward momentum at all times, rather than wanting to argue or finding a difference or finding, you know, a partial truth in something. You know, go put the energy to actually beekeeping instead of being a knucklehead. You know?
I think it's good to learn. I think DC's got a good point up there where he's at. I think up in the Northwest, they do have a lot of sugar beets, like in Idaho and places like that. They used to raise them in Utah as well. So that is a really good question. But I just, you know, it's very good to be educated. But then once you kind of learn and move on, you kind of realize that bees are pretty tough little critters, and they do a lot of things. We try to maximize what they can do, but they surprise us all the time. And they do well.
There definitely is, you know, there is differences between feed types. So don't misunderstand what we're saying. If you put straight, you know, organic cane sugar on there that's brown and still has solids and everything else in it, I have seen what that does to the bees, and that causes the squirts like you've never seen before. So we're not saying that there's not differences and you shouldn't care. I'm just simply saying, you know, on some of these things, maybe it's not worth the aggravation of splitting the hair, you know?
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it. Let's move on to the next one. And we're getting on down the questions. Mike Davis says he's working on building his bees population up and is feeding 1-to-1 with Hive Alive added. He says, should I be adding bee bites or super fuel patties as well? What's best? I guess he's asking basically if he needs to be adding pollen patties as along with the sugar, you know, the syrup at this time of year.
Bee bites or super fuel patties. I think Mike, I would say get into your colonies and look and see. You might not know yet what you're looking at or what you're seeing or what to add. But if you're getting in there and you're not finding any kind of stored protein at all, if you're not seeing any kind of stored pollen, you're going to quickly start seeing a lack of brood and buildup there too. If you don't start seeing a lot of stored feed, honey, or any kind of stored carbohydrate, then we got to make sure we're putting that on there too. So rather than say you should put this or that on there, I would say take a look and see what it's looking like inside the colony, particularly around the brood nest areas. If you're not seeing any kind of pollen, if you're not seeing bee bread, if you're not seeing stored nectar or honey or feed in those areas, then I would certainly consider getting some on there. Depending on where you're at in the country, though, I would be just mindful of hive beetles if they're an issue, and be careful on how much protein you're putting on there. If it's a smaller colony specifically, what's best is going to be. We can't answer that unless we're looking right inside your colony. Each product that you mentioned here, just like the different products that all the three of us may use, we may use different products at different times of year because they do things differently. So get in there, see what your bees are looking like first, and then maybe choose a product that's going to suit the need.
Hi, Greg. Classic comment here from Carmen Fiola. She says, when you split too many hairs, you go bald.
If you ask me why is Greg getting so fired up about splitting hairs, because I spent a long time splitting hairs. So did Bruce. Look at this, guys.
We could almost be brothers. Look at that.
Look at this. Isn't that something?
Yeah, I've done a lot of that. I must have split a lot of hairs over the years, right?
I've split a lot of hairs, Bruce. Wasn't worth it. Okay, Brian, stop it. No one likes Brian. Get this guy off the screen. Look at this guy. Full head of hair. Unbelievable.
All right, let's move on. We got Bees in the Abyss. Kevin, he says, hashtag, apparently he uses hashtag beetle crusher, hashtag oil trap, hashtag diatomaceous earth in the FMA bottom tray, 0 hive beetles. Sounds like he's got a solution that's working nice there. And those things are all good solutions, I do believe.
Yep. Cool.
Mark Zenner, we appreciate the super sticker there, or super chat. Thanks so much. RJM, if you only have one hive that goes laying worker, what do you do? How do you address that problem if you only have one hive, Greg? Is there anything you really can do?
Ooh, that's a tough question. That's a hard one. I've got an idea. What do you think, Brian?
I mean, with only one colony, that's tough.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what I would do in that case.
I mean, I went through the process to fix a laying worker before, so I know the challenges and like the time that it takes. That colony up here, you know, I don't know where he's located at. That colony up here ended up not making it through the winter because I had to mess with it so much. And then they ended up, they got queen right, and she got to laying, but the population never rebounded to the point where they survived. That's tough. If you had that, so that situation right there is why I always tell everyone, when you start beekeeping, 1 is none, 2 is 1. And when you have multiple colonies, then you can play a little bit more. But with only 1, man, that's tough. Anymore, like with a laying worker, I shake them out. I don't even deal with them.
Yeah.
So, but with
Greg,
I wouldn't jump the gun yet so quick, because my question would be, how big is the colony? Because there's one thing that a laying workers colony does in earnest. They've got nothing else to do, so they tend to actually have some frames of honey. So if you've got a colony that they are starting to bring in nectar, I would let them keep doing that. And once there's a crop there, whatever that it might be, then I would probably pull it. If you're talking about a 10 frame single worth of bees and something just went wrong, if you do have, it would be worth it for the learning opportunity, because here's what's going to happen. If you've never tried to fix a laying worker, you're never going to truly appreciate the advice that all of us give who have spent time trying to fix hundreds. And so we very quickly will say, just shake them out, move the frames onto a more productive colony, because the bees aren't the asset. The resources and the frames are. But if you've got one colony, you know, this is your entire beekeeping journey. In 1 year is this colony, and now they're doomed. It's hard to just say, okay, well, I'm done, because it feels like it's a loss. If they're big enough, if they're storing some nectar, I would let them keep building until they lose enough of strength that they can't protect it. Pull it before then, harvest that for yourself. But you got to be mindful that those bees are going to be dead. If they're already laying workers right now, they've probably been 3 to 4 weeks without a queen. So they're 28 days. The youngest bee in there is going to be 28 days. They only have 2 weeks of life left, really, and they're done. So your overall picture goes down very, very quickly, where the colony is only going to be living for 2 to 4 more weeks at the very longest, at which point they're going to start losing population rapidly. They're not going to be able to protect all that. What typically happens, at least in my neck of the woods, if that happens, they lose population, they lose the defense mechanism in the colony, and then hive beetles move in. And then hive beetles will slime out beautiful frames of wax and pollen and everything else and render it all useless. So if you do have, for sure, that size colony, let them make some resources, pull the resources and save those for next year if you can. Shake the bees out, and understand that the frames and what is in the frames is the asset here, not the bees that are only going to live 2 or 3 more weeks. That's what I would do this late in the year. if you're in the Midwest.
Okay. We got just a couple more questions, and we're gonna probably start wrapping it up here right away. This is a rapid fire question. I think from DC. Does anyone press their cappings with a cider press? Was looking at them on Amazon. I've seen a few videos of beekeepers using them for that. I guess if you wanted to, you could. If you want to get all the honey out of those cappings, it wouldn't be a bad idea. Any reason it would be a bad idea, Greg, that you can think of, or Brian? I mean, it'll squeeze all that honey out of there, but you can let cappings just sit and filter and drain, and within a few days
Yeah.
they'll be pretty dry.
I
never
think
thought
I don't know if the amount of honey you're going to get out of the cappings if you did that versus just letting them drain out and then putting the cappings, in a melter and separating it. And then I don't know. You have to just determine what's that going to cost you, how much time versus I don't know how much DC. I'm not sure how many pounds of cappings you've got. And if you've got a couple 5-gallon buckets worth of cappings, then there's enough poundage of honey to do it. But if not,
we used to just put them in a 5-gallon strainer, and I had to have 2 or 3 of those 5-gallon paint strainers and let it hang over a 5-gallon bucket. The honey would all drip out. Just let it hang there for a couple of days.
It'll do it.
And then those cappings are actually pretty dry when you do that. It works pretty well.
Yeah.
Real quick question for Loma Vista out there, Todd. How early in the year does Zach ship his queens? You got to reach out to him and ask him that question, Brian. He does have a minimum order of 28. And it's a little tough to get those early queens, but I get mine. I get some mid-February, so you might want to go ahead and reach out to Zach now and see if he would have some available then, and just kind of ask him. You got to reach out to Zach Heinzelman or Heinzelman Apiaries on Facebook is the only way I know how to get a hold of him.
Todd,
he does a lot of
the name for you.
What's that?
I'll get it for Todd. I've got his name.
Yeah, Zach he operates mostly through Facebook messengers in my experience. Couple more quick things here. Of course, we got to include Brian Lee. Thanks, Brian, for the super chat. He says, "Happy birthday, Bruce." And then, of course, I have to say, hashtag Bruce's Bodacious Body Bars. He's still.
Body Bruce.
Maybe one day we'll do something crazy like that. Justin Strom, Bruce, do you have a membership club? I guess a membership on YouTube. I don't, Justin. I've thought about doing that. I know both Greg and Brian do. I should do that. I don't know. If I do that, I feel obligated to make additional content for my members, and I can barely get content made for my public, and so that's one reason I haven't done that. But I've looked into it a little bit. I may do that in the future. If I do, it won't be an expensive thing at all. It'll be a very reasonable price thing, but it may be about time to do that. I appreciate you mentioning that, and I appreciate you asking. That is our final question. So I guess we'll do a rapid round the horn follow-up for the video tonight. We appreciate everyone being on here. It's been a great chat. My goal tonight was to go for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, and here we are 2 hours and 5 minutes in. So it always turns out that way. Great questions, great comments. It was great having Jared on here, and I appreciate you guys always showing up and showing out. The stream team has been a lot of fun the last 3.5 years. Brian, why don't we start off with you with what you have planned the next few days and Castle Hives and all talk about here in Alabama a little bit, and then Greg will let you bring it home for us.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm going to go over, depending on how the attitude is, if I can get into a couple of the colonies, I'm going to spot check a couple of them. I forgot to say earlier, I did a couple mite washes and I had 3s. So I'm like, 1% is, I'll take it for right now, especially. I mean, the ones that I did wash, they were larger colonies. So it's like, well, on the larger colonies, if I'm washing ones, 1%ers, I'll take that for August. But I'm going to get over, tomorrow I'm going to feed. And then after that, I'm not going to look at bees for a week. So I'm going to enjoy the mountains.
That sounds wonderful.
That's it. And then after that, hopefully when I get back, by that point, that's going to be what I'll probably dig into them August 16th. It'll be. So I'm hoping by that point that something as far as a flow starts to kick in, and the feed that I've been giving them will kind of simmer their attitude some, and I'll be able to work them more. I really would have liked to have gotten an assessment on them all right now, but like I said earlier, sometimes you just gotta know when to walk away.
I gotcha. Down here in Alabama, we're going to be doing some summer splits. Going to try it again this year. Some August splits. I had good success last year in July, but we're going to try some here in August with some of Greg's queens here in 2 or 3 days. And so I'll look forward to giving that a shot. And as far as videos go, the videos have backed off a little bit the last few weeks. I do have some footage, but it's just been hard for me to get it edited, and I'm not sure how much of it I'll actually get out. But I haven't forgot about you guys or the channel. It's just been a very busy and month for me, not just beekeeping, but otherwise too. And so I'm kind of getting to that point of the year where I'm just really tired. Every year I kind of hit that wall a little bit, and every year it seems to start a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
But we've had an amazing year this year. Our beekeeping season was but really amazing and great. But now, honestly, I think we can almost say we're in the 2026 beekeeping season in a way, because now we're prepping for next year. And so that's kind of where we're at with things here. But just going to be doing a few summer splits this week. I've started trying to set them up last weekend, and we'll see how they do. Greg, I'll send it on over to you to finish it out tonight. Go ahead, Brian.
Before Greg goes, I'm gonna try. I did a little chat interview with Joel Salatin the other day, and I sat editing, and I got about, I think I'm at about like the 15-minute mark or something like that. And I've been too busy to sit at the darn computer to edit the rest of it. I'm gonna try and have that thing out on Friday though. So, I know like Bruce said too, I mean, it's just a busy time. I've got 2 videos worth filmed. It's a time factor. So, but I'll have that stuff out here soon. So apologies. And Greg.
No need to apologize, Brian. You're a busy fella, and it's that time of year. We're trying to just rein everything in. I think we all are. There's all the things that we want to do and we know we can do, but no matter what we do, we can't find enough time to make all those happen. So, I think everyone understands that the 3 of us and any other YouTuber out there, we are chasing our first lines of responsibility first, and kind of going down from there. And it's not always easy. Although you guys do a great job with your videos, it's not as easy as it looks to capture content and think through it and get it edited and get it published and actually do the bee work and the business part, so there's a lot to it. So, but congratulations to Brian, Joel Salatin. I mean, out of all of the potential guests to have, at least in my mind, he's the biggest named guest in this entire sphere of influencing as far as homesteading and beekeeping. And not that he's a beekeeper, but he's in the homesteading vein. I've learned a lot from Joel Salatin. I read, I think, all of his books, and he's a man of God. He's a man of integrity, and I like what he stands for, and I like what he does. He's not afraid to go against the grain. He's unashamed about his faith. He's unashamed of his beliefs and what's important to him. And to me, I really respect that. And he's definitely a breath of fresh air out here when everyone is just trying to model who they are based on what they see somebody else doing or this measure of success. And they're afraid to stand up for what's right. And they're afraid to stand up for personal freedom. And they're afraid to stand up for their family and education and good quality food. So I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of that, Brian. Well, what's going on here the next week or so is we're getting ready to wrap up kind of the culmination of some work. This is kind of a neat thing. A lot of these are going out to Bruce, and they're going to some other places. But what's neat about this is what you're looking at here is over 10 years of work, 10 years of labor going into constantly breeding from the best. These specifically have a very unique characteristic. I'll leave it at that. But I'm looking forward to seeing what those results are from a lot of beekeepers. That's what we're doing here. Making the last of the splits, getting everything queen right, getting everything built back up, getting everything moving towards double deeps for wintertime, and then just trying to maintain all the rest of the things that are here. The EnduroHive wax tip line of equipment. The shop's busy here on the weekends. Folks taking a look at the Max Honey equipment, asking questions. We've been busy speaking all over the place. And so all that is heading towards fall, winter, and spring buildup. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I got so much footage recorded. I just don't have the time to get it all edited and get it out. But what I've noticed is we worry a lot about that, but there's always the right time and reason when you feel on your heart that a certain piece of content is supposed to go out. And when it does, it really hits where it needs to. So other than that, man, just a lot of grind, a lot of just the business stuff going on right now. But we're blessed. It's an incredible opportunity when we put God first, and then family, and then the business. How everything always continues to work for good for those who love the Lord. So I'm in a place of peace right now. Or when in years past it would be nothing but chaos. So. On that note, I hope we want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight to another Stream Team Beekeeping Chat. You know, if you're hitting that wall, it's that time of year. You know, just remember, it's make or break time. Follow through. There's just a little bit more to go before we can call it quits for the year. So don't give up. Get in there, make those assessments, make those calls, and the name of the game right now, forward momentum. Make sure everything is moving forward. Until next week, next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Whose channel are we on next week, guys? Mine. Okay.
Nature's Image Farm.
Guys, we'll be on the Nature's Image Farm YouTube channel, 8 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday. I know just from on the farm from here till then, there's a lot going on. There'll be a lot to talk about, a lot to get caught up on. So again, make sure you guys wish Bruce a happy 29th times 2 birthday. All right, here in the comments and on the video when it hits. Bruce, I really do appreciate you, your friendship. I've learned a lot from you. Brian, I appreciate your friendship. I've learned a lot from you too. The Stream Team, 3.5 years going strong, heading on 4 years here actually before too much longer, guys. What a thing. It's a beautiful thing. We'll see you next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Nature's Image Farm YouTube channel. And until then, we want to remind you to be the lighthouse and be the change you want to see in this world. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.